Okay, so you have a list. You've had the same list for 3 days. You've thought about doing it 47 times today. You opened the document, stared at it, closed it. And then you picked up your phone, scrolled for 20 minutes, put it down feeling worse, more tired, more guilty, more behind. And that voice kicked in. Lazy, undisciplined, what is wrong with you? Here's what that voice doesn't know. There is a biological reason you can't start. It lives in your nervous system. And no productivity hack on earth, not Mel Robbins' 5-second countdown, not Tony Robbins' state change techniques, not any planner, can fix a nervous system problem by itself. The productivity industry runs on one assumption. Getting things done is a matter of discipline. Push harder, want it more. Mel Robbins is right that procrastination is triggered by stress, not laziness. Tony Robbins is right that state comes before strategy. But what neither world talks about is what happens when the nervous system is so depleted that you cannot shift state on command, because you've got nothing left to shift with. Here's what that actually means biologically. Your body runs its stress response through the HPA axis, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system. Under chronic stress, this system dysregulates. Cortisol output becomes erratic, too high, too low, wrong times of day. Research links this flattened cortisol rhythm directly to burnout, chronic fatigue, and brain fog. What people call adrenal fatigue is real, even if the term is imprecise. The adrenals aren't broken, but the system coordinating them has been running in emergency mode so long, it no longer responds normally. You cannot 5-4-3-2-1 your way out of a broken cortisol rhythm. That is a biology problem, not a willpower problem. And on willpower itself, the famous ego depletion theory has failed to replicate in large-scale studies. Meta-analyses found no consistent evidence for it. The model the entire productivity industry was built on doesn't hold up. What does hold up? Resilience reflects not willpower, but the adaptive flexibility of a well-regulated nervous system. Willpower is not the lever. Your nervous system state is. Chronic stress causes measurable volume loss in the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning, starting, and finishing tasks. Simultaneously, it increases amygdala reactivity and suppresses dopamine. The part of your brain that starts things shrinks. The part that detects threat gets louder. The drive to do anything gets chemically quieted. Stephen Bartlett covered this in a Diary of a CEO episode called "You're Not Lazy. This is the real reason you procrastinate." The key insight being that procrastination is about avoiding a negative emotional state, not hard work. The task isn't the problem. The feelings it triggers are. And your phone makes it worse. Every scroll adds more input to a system already at capacity. That's why 20 minutes on Instagram leaves you more exhausted than before you picked it up. You weren't resting. You were adding load with zero genuine restoration. In the most extreme cases, what Dr. Peter Levine calls the freeze response in Waking the Tiger, the nervous system shuts down entirely as a last resort. His observation? Animals do not view freezing as weakness. Neither should we. You are not frozen because you are failing. You are frozen because your system ran out of road. Dr. Gabor Maté, in his book When the Body Says No, that the people most likely to suppress their own needs, to keep giving, managing, over-functioning, were the ones whose bodies eventually said no for them. When we have been prevented from learning how to say no, our bodies may end up saying it for us. For many women, that isn't a metaphor. It's a Tuesday. Constant overfunctioning keeps cortisol chronically elevated. Every draining relationship, every unreciprocated emotional labor transaction, these aren't separate from the productivity problem. They are the productivity problem. A nervous system permanently in threat mode cannot access the executive function required to start, plan, or finish anything. Then comes shame. Brené Brown's research is clear. Shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. When you're sitting in that hot, small, what is wrong with me state, you are not in a state that supports action. You are in a state that supports hiding. The guilt spiral is not motivating you, it is physiologically deepening your paralysis. Before you can regulate, you need to know what's actually overwhelming your system. 1. The invisible mental load. Background processing of everyone else's needs consumes working memory before you've opened a single document. You arrive already depleted. 2. Unprocessed relational stress. Draining people keep your nervous system in low-grade alert around the clock. You cannot be in threat mode and creative mode simultaneously. The relationship problem and the productivity problem are the same problem. 3. Chronic sleep debt. Sleep is when the nervous system resets and the prefrontal cortex restores. Without it, you start every day already in deficit. 4. Task-self misalignment. When you're forcing yourself through something with no connection to your values, the nervous system registers it as a threat. As Kolk says, the body keeps the score. The resistance you feel is information, not weakness. 5. Overthinking. Your brain burning fuel with the engine in park. In 2020, researchers at Queen's University used fMRI scans to measure the exact moment one thought ends and another begins, what they called thought worms. Their estimate? Around 6,200 distinct thoughts every single day. A thought every 9 seconds. Every waking hour. In a person at rest, not someone managing a household, a career, and everyone else's emotional needs on top. One study, 184 participants. The researchers describe this as an estimate, not a definitive figure. Separate research shows rumination keeps cortisol elevated overnight. You didn't sleep, but your stress response didn't either. Research also shows women ruminate more frequently than men, which partly explains the gender gap in depression, and why so many women arrive at their desks already spent from a night of doing nothing physically, but thinking constantly. Overthinking isn't a personality flaw. It's a nervous system searching for solid ground. But it costs more than almost anything else on this list. Stop trying to push through the state. Start by changing it. First, a distinction nobody makes. Freeze and anxiety are not the same and need different responses. Anxious and activated? Bring it down. Slow breath, cold water, movement. You can also watch our other video on why you are exhausted. Flat, heavy, foggy, watching yourself from behind glass, that's freeze. You cannot calm your way out of freeze. You need to bring the system back up first. In freeze, in this order: micro movement. Wiggle your fingers, roll your shoulders, tap your feet. Tiny voluntary movement tells your nervous system you're not trapped. Then, sensory input. Cold water on your face, bare feet on the floor, something warm in your hands. Then, sound. Hum. Sigh audibly. Use your voice. Porges's research found vocal sound directly stimulates the vagus nerve, one of the fastest routes out of shutdown. Then, connection if you can. a calm voice, eye contact, even a text. Co-regulation is hardwired into us. You're not weak for needing it. Movement, senses, sound, connection. Only once you feel a flicker of returning presence, then approach the task. Now, the 5 tools for any state. 1. State check before task. 30 seconds. Which state am I in right now? Tony Robbins has said for years that state precedes strategy. This is where that starts. 2. 2-minute body reset. Physiological sigh. Double inhale through the nose, long exhale out. Cold water on your wrists. A short walk. Before the task, not instead of it. Mel Robbins' instinct is right. Move the body before the brain talks you out of it. 3. Shrink the task. Not write the report, open the document. Not clean the kitchen, put one thing in the sink. Bartlett calls it smallifying. Make the first step so small it cannot be refused. Once you start, the brain tends to continue. 4. Drop the shame narration. Brené Brown. Shame doesn't motivate, it paralyzes. Name the voice. Replace it with what's accurate. My nervous system is overwhelmed. This is a state. States change. 5. Contain the overthinking. Write it down. Not to solve it, to get it out of your head. The brain ruminates because it fears forgetting. Give it evidence the thought is captured. 1 page, 3 minutes. Then, close the notebook. Modern science has been catching up to what ancient cultures never forgot. Shamanic traditions used rhythmic drumming as medicine across every continent. EEG studies, published in PLOS One and the Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences, show drumming at 4 to 7 beats per second consistently entrains the brain into theta wave states, the frequency of deep meditation, emotional processing, and memory integration. The same state where the amygdala quietens and the prefrontal cortex can come back online. They weren't doing this because it felt nice. Rhythm was the fastest available route out of a nervous system locked in threat. Sound baths, Tibetan singing bowls, crystal bowls, gongs, shift the autonomic nervous system from sympathetic activation to parasympathetic rest. Cortisol drops. Heart rate variability improves. Tuning forks work through direct vibrational resonance in tissue. The science and the tradition describe the same mechanism in different languages. On frequencies, 432 Hz is mathematically aligned with the Schumann resonance, the Earth's electromagnetic frequency, and was common tuning before the 440 Hz standard was adopted in 1939. The 528 Hz frequency, used in Gregorian chanting and ancient Sanskrit practice, has been explored in early stress reduction research. The science is still emerging. The traditions weren't waiting for peer review. They were watching what happened to people. And acupuncture. Traditional Chinese medicine has used it for 2,000 years to restore the flow of qi through the body's meridians. When Western researchers started measuring what actually happens during treatment, they found something remarkable. A 2024 review in the Journal of Integrative Medicine found acupuncture directly modulates the HPA axis, the same stress system we've been talking about throughout this video. Research in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience confirmed specific acupuncture points enhance vagal nerve activity. Cortisol drops. Heart rate variability improves. The body returns toward balance. Different frameworks, same body, same result. Your nervous system responds to rhythm, resonance, sound, vibration, and touch. It always has. Your body knows how to regulate. Sometimes it just needs the right input to remember how. You were never lazy. You were a regulated nervous system doing its best inside conditions that weren't safe enough for executive function to come online. Every ancient healing tradition understood that the human body moves in cycles, that rest was medicine, that stillness was not weakness, it was necessary. Modern culture decided otherwise. Every expert we've covered today, Brown, Maté, Kolk, Levine, arrived at the same place from different directions. The body is not your enemy. It is trying to protect you. Your challenge this week. Before you attempt any task you've been avoiding, do the state check first. 30 seconds. Write down 3 words for how your body feels right now. Not your thoughts about the task, how your body feels. 3 days. You'll see the pattern, and once you can see it, you can work with it. If you want to understand why your physical environment might be adding to this, that video is right here. Clutter, draining people, and a nervous system that can't switch off are all the same conversation. Or, if you're ready to look at the relationships that are keeping your nervous system in threat mode, you might also like to watch Ditch the People Who Are Draining You. Because everything we've talked about today, it starts there too. Don't forget to like and subscribe so we can continue to produce more content that helps you become the best version of yourself.